Hello, good day. Welcome to class 23 of our SWAT course. Today we're going to be talking about sacrifices in the occult and Satanism. Now, I just want to say before we start that we always need to remember that Jesus Christ was the ultimate sacrifice on the cross. And that's why we as Christians do not have to bring animal sacrifices to temples, etc. anymore. Today, I'm going to be talking about the different types of sacrifices and why, and the meaning and intent behind it in the occult and also in Satanism. Now, the occult covers a vast array of practices, and then Satanism on its own looks a bit different when it comes to sacrifice. There is a place where they interlink, though, because Satanism obviously falls under the occult as the umbrella term. And then African traditional healing would also fall under the occult. And I'm going to be talking about some things from my experience when I was involved with African traditional witchcraft for a 4-year period. Because of our constitution in South Africa, our legislation, sacrifice for the purpose of religious practices is very much allowed and legal. And that's why a lot of the sacrifices in the occult and in Satanism gets to be what it is in terms of the animal sacrifice part, and as well as why sacrifices or the killing of animals for traditional healing purposes is not illegal in this country. So you can, like I said, come to your own conclusions in regards with that. We did speak a little bit about that in a previous class session as well. So I can't remember which one, but I know I've talked about it. But today we're going to dive into the sacrifice element or aspect of occult and satanic practice. Now, in African traditional healing, so when you get initiated as a traditional healer, there's a process before the time that you have to complete, which is considered a training, or it's called ukutwaza in Xhosa. So that involves the training process. Now, right at the beginning of that training process, you have to sacrifice a white chicken. I find it very interesting that in voodoo, white chickens is also sacrificed for specific types of rituals when it comes to appeasing the loas. When also you graduate, you get a type of necklace that is usually a little horn of the goat that you have to sacrifice that's filled with Muthi, and that goes around your neck immediately with white and red beads, equal amount of beads, red and white. So I will attach a picture where I used to wear those type of beads, and then also if you see people wearing it, you will know, and you can obviously pray for them. Practices of African traditional witchcraft and mostly the occult practice as well, when it comes to the, let's call it the professional aspect of it, meaning where money is involved. Now, there is such a trade and industry in the world when it comes to the harvesting of organs and body parts, both of humans and of animals. Now, I used to go to the Muthi market in Durban quite often. I'm going to put 1 or 2 pictures of it up here, where you can buy all sorts of herbs, spices, parts of plants for certain purposes, but then a lot of different parts of animals and even human parts, which was hidden quite well. Now, just to give you a few explanations of that, is that there's certain, like I said, parts of certain types of animals and even humans that corresponds to certain magical witchcraft purposes. Now, the reason this exists in the first place is money is involved, meaning that there's people who go to sangomas, traditional healers, and to occultists to perform witchcraft for them, for their problems. Then the moment it involves body parts or blood or whatever is required, the price increases dramatically. And also how certain other parts of animals and humans is used in satanic witchcraft. Now, human fat candles is very common to use in satanic witchcraft, meaning that candles that are made from human fat are burned on an altar where satanic magic, satanic witchcraft, and curses is performed. Specifically, when you want or they want to send a curse to a person. Another common practice is the use of tongues, human tongues. Again, the tongues of cattle and sheep and goats, also very popular, to put nails into those tongues and to tie it with a certain knot and send that to the intended person. The next class I'm doing is going to be about Freemasons. So in that class, I'm going to cover what I've learned from 3 ex-Freemasons that I've met in person over the last 2 years, the experiences that they've shared with me that is similar, the things that they revealed or talked about from their experience that is similar, as well as my one. No, it's actually 2 visits. One was for a ritual, one was just for a meeting that I had in a Freemason lodge at the beginning of the time where I got involved in Satanism, because a lot of the people who were in this Freemason lodges also came to the South African Satanic Church, and then quite often members of the South African Satanic Church would go to the Freemason lodges for certain rituals and to share information about that. Then I'm going to be talking in class 27 about demonic manifestations. I also did a course, taught or facilitated is probably the word, a course on demonology. So some of the things I have covered in that course, but this specifically is going to focus on demonic manifestations in satanic rituals and in Satanism and in Satanist lives, day-to-day lives, where there's demonic manifestations. Then class 29, I'm going to be talking about occult crimes. Some of it has been documented over the years, and then there's quite a lot of the majority of occult crimes, occult related crimes, is not documented or talked about, or there's no information about it. So occult crimes isn't just sacrifices and the killing of people. It also involves other things that happens in the occult that is illegal, how it is hidden from the public, how the police and certain policemen that are part of Satanism, but also who are paid by high-ranking Satanists, how they then keep those things from actually coming out. So that's going to be that class. Class 31 is satanic sex. So that I'm going to talk about sexual practices and things that is common in Satanism. So things that happen at satanic rituals where it connected to sexual activity and the types of things that actually happen. Then in class 33, we're going to be talking about Satanism in schools. 2 parts of that. So teachers who are Satanists, what their mandate is in schools or their agenda, how they operate, but also then children who specifically stay in hostels, what type of rituals and things they get involved in and what they practice, and also how they introduce Satanism to fellow students or pupils in schools. That would be that. Clause 35, I'm going to be talking about drug use in the occult and Satanism and why that specifically happens. And I had quite an experience with drugs, specifically cocaine and ketamine, in my time where I was involved in Satanism, and why it always is specific drugs that is introduced and how drugs are used both as a hook and both also as a practice. Well, a practice, it's a common phenomenon in Satanism and in the occult, for certain things, and to also reach certain levels and to numb yourself against certain things. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in clause 35. Clause 37 is about astral projection and travel, how that works, how it is taught to people. So I'm not going to teach you how to astral project, but I'm going to talk about how fellow Satanists teach each other and why certain Satanists are taught that and for what purpose, and then why others are not. So that would be clause 37. Yes. Clause 38 is going to be minor children of Satanists. So children who are born into Satanism and are forced to partake in things, but then there's also children, in my experience, who are kept away from it. So the parents, especially when one parent is involved, but the other one is not even aware of it, how the methods and techniques that is used to hide that from children, but then what they actually do witness and see, and how it affects them spiritually. Okay. Then clause 41 is going to be programs and triggers. And I know this is a question that a lot of people have asked, and some of you even as well. It's like, how does the programming and triggers work? And is it only something that is activated if a person wants to leave Satanism, or is there certain other areas where it happens? So yes, it's yes to both those things, and how it's done and why it's done and for what purpose. So that will be what we're going to do there. Then clause 43 is about Satanists in the medical profession or medical industry, not just in South Africa, but around the world, and how that is beneficial to Satanism as a whole, but also how it is dangerous to certain people who are unaware, meaning colleagues of people in the medical and professional industry, and then more importantly, patients of doctors and certain physicians that are Satanists, and how that impacts them, especially when they are not Christian. Okay. Then, where are we now? Oh, clause 45 is going to be about the holistic industry, which is also referred to as New Age practices, and how that ties into Satanism, and how it is quite often a stepping stone intentionally to lower people into demonic worship, because in the New Age and holistic industry there's a lot of things like goddess worship, plant medicine journeys, those type of things. So I'm going to be talking about that and explain the deception basically that is around that. Okay. Clause 47 is principalities that prey on Christians. So that is quite often principalities that is used in satanic rituals that Satanists are aware of, and how to utilize and weaponize that to attack churches and specific groups of people. And I also find it very fascinating, as I go about and talk at churches and meet people, that there's still a perception that Satanists want to infiltrate Christian churches, and it's certainly not part of the satanic agenda anymore. It was part of the previous one, but Satanists have also learned that because of the division and weaknesses that is in Christian churches. But to use an example, they would use the Jezebel spirit and the belief about the Jezebel spirit and the wrongful, let's say, teachings, or the irrational fear and paranoia about the Jezebel spirit, and they would actually tap into that to use it as a principality or a overall belief system to attack church groups in a certain way. I also did that at my time that I was involved, and I will explain how that is done and why. So that's class 47. And then class 49 is Satanic spiritual warfare. So that is specifically warring against Christians in groups. So I know I've shared this before in interviews and things. For instance, when I got just under 8,000 satanic witches to target Adele at a certain time, that wasn't the only time that I did that, but I also did it with people that were considered a threat to the South African Satanic Church or certain members of the media at a certain time, because my demons told me to do that, obviously, and also because I was severely oppressed. But how that is utilized and how it groups of people are utilized or weaponized against Christians, and how that is done, and when does it actually have an effect and when it doesn't. So that will be my last class of the SWAT sessions. It's class 49. So that's just to give you guys an idea of what is still coming. But more importantly, thank each one of you for doing this course with us. Adele and myself appreciate it. It means a lot to us. Please remember, and I know maybe you do remember, but the second Friday, I think I'm getting hay fever. The second Friday of each month at 7 p.m. South African time, Adele and myself, we do our student support sessions. So this is where you can log on. Adele usually sends out a Google Meet link, and then if you have any questions about any one of our class sessions that you have done or looked at or viewed, and you maybe want to ask a specific question about that, that is your opportunity to do that. So write those questions down, come to those sessions, ask the questions. There isn't really such a thing as a stupid question, because sometimes you are asking something that somebody else wants to know as well. And we are very happy to answer those questions for you in those sessions. We are here for you. Also know that Adele and myself, we are praying for you guys, for your covering during the time, especially when you are doing these class sessions and courses, that you are covered, your family is covered, your homes are covered, your finances are covered, your jobs is covered, your pets are covered, your travel is covered, that you are covered by the blood of Jesus all the way, and that you remember that it is not about the hunger for information or to be fixated on the works of the enemy, but at the end of the day, that it is about the victory that we have in Jesus Christ already. Amen. So thank you guys so much for watching. Have a beautiful, beautiful week. Have a beautiful day. Praise Jesus. Bye.